Let's go! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, hyped. So much to dive into today. Yeah, we'll talk about Palantir. We're going to talk about the S&P 500 up listings with Dell. There's a couple other companies in there. We're going to talk about Google, baby, because Google's dying. Not in the way you think, obviously, and I'm curious to where the value in that is if it's a good pickup now or not. But we're going to talk about some tech companies, Tesla self-driving. We're going to get into launching people to Mars because that's coming soon as well. Before we do, we get into the insanity of interest rates, triple leveraged ETFs, and all this insanity that's happened this week, folks. Because like a squirrel without a nut, let's get into some of the comments that I think are just hilarious. Like, ha ha ha. You really are a clown on the internet, but I love your content. Keep it up. I'm glad you think so and you follow this clown over all the other clowns. Can you give some info on where to start now? I noticed I watched old videos, but this year is a new situation. It would be great if you could help us help us who are new to the field and want to make a portfolio for retirement. This is a question that comes up far too much. And if you're worried about what everyone else is doing, you're doing it wrong. You should just be cost averaging the S&P 500. It never changes. It's always the same thing. If you are learning your financial advice on the internet, sir, you need to leave now. You're going to get steered in the wrong direction. Just cost average. Super simple. Do your job. Don't worry about the noise unless you just want to come here for entertainment because that's what everyone else is doing. I don't see real estate as a big risk. Lol. Allied Properties is my biggest hold, and that monthly juicy dividend, a great balance sheet and net income is only going to get better with rate cuts. The real estate sector, again, even though I'm triple leveraging it, is a bit perplexing to me. And the reason that I don't buy individual REITs, well, we do own RioCan, the way, like, we own some small positions in some individual REITs. The problem with individual REITs is you just don't know how they're going to perform or react. I mean, there's always, market risk, dilution risk. You don't know what these companies are doing. I got to do a deep dive research into Allied. I'm super fascinated by why this company isn't recovering because it does have such a good, strong balance sheet. Yeah, the last month's been okay for it. But I mean, if you compare it to like the RioCan, we got a lot of RioClanners out there. I mean, RioCan is actually bouncing back on the interest rate cuts. It's like it's a catalyst for this, and it should be a catalyst for most of the REITs. So I'm always a little bothered when you think you find something that's great and then it just isn't performing as well as the broader real estate sector in a time where it should be realistically getting a little bit of hype. In your opinion, is it too late to buy into interest rate plays like VNQ, XLU, and XEI? I have some cash to invest that I'd like to have available in the next couple of years. And I want to maintain the yield from VDY and XEI, but I am getting overweight on the Canadian stocks. Here's the deal. I'm going to get into this in a sec because some of you are recommending XEQT. Like the idea of XEQT as one of the fun solutions for long-term investing, but it doesn't have the yield I'm looking for in the near term. Looking to take on a bit more risk than money market funds, which I find interesting. I'm really confused because you said this is money that you're looking for in the next, some cash to invest that I need. I'd like available in the next couple of years. So if you're looking for cash that you need in the next couple of years, I wouldn't trust the market because black swan events happen. You could go through a 2001 to a 2013 where the market does nothing. There's so much risk, and just thinking the yield is going to offer you like a security blanket is probably not the appropriate way to think about it. Whereas you can get like probably a good 4% GIC still. Lock that in for 2 or 3 years. I mean, it's a guaranteed return with very, very little risk. Because like a lot of people, XEQT is probably the best thing you're going to buy. I mean, I always look at yield as total return, right? Like the distribution yield on this is 2.85%, but I wouldn't be like, again, I'm not like a total dividend investor. My mind doesn't purely operate around dividend stocks because to me, my yield is how much did my portfolio go up this year and how much did I get paid? If I get paid 2 or 3%, I'm happy. I can spend that without giving up all that growth either. But if typically you're getting into those 9-10% yields, things get risky. But then you got to ask yourself too, right? Like sometimes stocks can pay 9 or 10% and offer great returns. Look at British American Tobacco. My mom's probably rolling around on the floor of this one this week. It's the best stock I ever bought for her. It's British American Tobacco. Look at the return on this, man. We bought this back here, I think in 2023, somewhere around here. Like, look at that. You're getting a crazy yield and a great growth. I'm not promoting BTI. For most people shouldn't be buying this on an individual level. It's super risky. We're really happy to have found your channel, subscribed, and I joined the live chats. A lot of bears and bull grifters out there these days. That said, I have moved some of my portfolio into cash and waiting not to buy specific stocks upon minor or major corrections, but to grab really solid index funds at sale. Thanks for highlighting a few of the ones to target. And right now, some of them are getting there. I mean, Qs are down S&P 500's down, baby. I don't try and play that, though. I don't like playing that game. I'd rather just cost average because you don't know the bottoms or the top. And this reminds me of like 2022 there, where I like liquidated almost all my single stocks. And I'm like, people were like nuts because Kevin was going cash. Everyone was just like, I remember everybody was stacking cash, worried, concerned. And I was still 100% in the market. Minus, I always leave like 10, 15 G's just floating around because, again, you never know. But either way, like always in the market, baby. Always in the market. And just buy more when it's down. What if you lose your job? You just buy more. You go get a different job. You go get a side hustle. You start selling stuff. You start flipping garage sale stuff, right? Hey, Kyle, curious to know if you've looked into the UAP stuff that's been coming out. Are you talking about like unidentified, aerial projectile things or something here? Lou Elizondo, in his recent book, Imminent, calls out a certain companies, Lockheed, Raytheon, etc., for possessing technology and craft that is highly advanced and possibly not from this world. A disclosure in this topic has the ability to transform society and our economic structure like never before. Now, I'm not going to go down too loosely into the rabbit hole conspiracy theories. However, ground warfare and warfare in general is going to change dramatically, and we are seeing it happen in real time when it comes to the economics of it. Ground war, air war is a waste of time. Can't do nukes, can't do a lot of things. But when you're doing ground war right now, there's this economic situation where you can print a drone for $100 with an explosive on it, and you can destroy $1 million tank. Drone warfare, man, is getting out of control right now in Russia and the Ukraine. And it's just, eventually we're going to get to an evolution where the economics just don't make sense. Because eventually, like, why would you send a human in a tank out when they're just going to lose to a drone that costs nothing in comparison to sending even a human out? I mean, we're heading into a weird place in general. Everything that you know and love, from the way the banking system works to robotics to war, is all changing in a way that's going to be horrifying. I mean, human genetics alone, right? Like genomic editing and stuff is going to be scary. I mean, I think now you can even modify humans any way you want. I mean, you could hair color, eye color, all that stuff can be chosen now. It's just, they just don't allow you to do it. genome sequencing and shit's crazy, bro. But before I go down too much into sanity, let's talk about the markets. Let's talk about something a little bit more grounded here, something that is a little bit more precise and in near-term concerning, and that is what's going on. Because obviously, we're heading into a very perplexing market this month, because not only do we have the Federal Reserve coming out in a week and a half or so, I think on the 18th, we're going to get hopefully, obviously, I mean, there's probably like a 99% chance at this point that we get interest rate cuts. And what happens in a market that always sells off in September? It's like, it's some weird phenomenon that has happened for the last several years, where every October the market finds a bottom. In September to October, the market always sells off. So I'm curious what the sell-off looks like heading into the interest rate cuts, because it's just going to be interesting. It's just going to be very, very interesting. We're seeing most stocks in the red. There's not a whole lot of green going on here, without a few exceptions. I mean, obviously we'll talk about Palantir, some of these other smaller caps. And obviously you got Visa in here. There's like Tesla's up a little bit after selling off pretty massively, but still green on the week. Telecommunications here are doing interesting as well. On the Canadian side of the border, it's just the banks did well this week for the most part. I think there was mild greenness in some of the other stocks, but for the most part, it was just the banks keeping the TSX up. But taking a look, I really want to dive into tech, and I want to talk about Google specifically, because this is a conversation that I've had far too many times, and I'm not trying to be like over hypercritical on Google. It's just, you got to kind of recognize the bull and the bear case behind these stocks. And Google looks like it is at the most extreme value right now. That's why I'm so fixated on it, because it's trading at literally a forward PE of like 18 or something right now. Like it's super cheap. However, cheap doesn't mean there's no risk. And there's a lot going on with this company that I'm just finding super interesting, because I've been following this story. I've traded in and out of Google. Actually, we still own some individual shares in Google. It's not a huge position by any metric. Like I said, my wife's portfolio, she has some individual tech here. And I find it interesting, because long-term, I have a hard time believing that, this business isn't going to succeed in a multitude of ways. I'm just kind of shocked and when, trying to figure out when Google search peaks, because I honestly believe Google search has already peaked. And I'm curious to how they've been able to grow, ad income. I mean, they're making some stupid $20, $30, $50 billion of just Google search ads. And I'm curious with all the drama going on today, how that's going to survive, because I've been used to seeing search dominance in articles like this or statistics like this. It's like, how are you going to compete against Google? Google owns 80, 95% of total search on mobile and like desktop search things. But that's not how people search. It doesn't, it's, 99% of people aren't going to Yahoo or Bing to search. They're going to their social media platforms. They're going to their chat GPTs. I'm telling you, like, I will look for certain, we're going to get into some data here because this is what's so intriguing to me, right? So let's just dive into this real quick. Because firstly, I always think it's funny too, that basically, I think since 2002, Apple has basically made Google the primary search default on their computers. Like, I don't know, I imagine as soon as the iPhone came out, Google was probably the default because they've already basically been working with them since ground zero. But for some reason, even on their own Google Trends, like the Google searches are down for people just searching Google, which I find, just a hilarious anecdote that probably doesn't have any, stemming mixed reality in what people are searching for, because obviously you wouldn't be going to Google. It's already open on your phone to Google stuff, right? But I just think that's an interesting anecdote that it's been on the downtrend on their own trending platform. But what's interesting to me is younger generations are more likely to use social media to search over Google, right? I will go to TikTok to look for certain things. I've noticed that a lot. My wife will use ChatGPT to search certain things. We're using ChatGPT to do certain things. Like when you're trying to write certain emails, like we're all using it at this point, and it's taking away from Google search, right? And the younger generation is more opt to just going on their social platform because Meta is going to allow you to do search now. Instagram, you might, like, if you're looking for specific things that you're used to finding on those platforms, those are platforms you're going to use. There is a decline of 25% on average in using Google for search between Generation Z and Generation X. A quarter, 24% of people said they primarily use social media to search online. A third of people, 33%, only use their cell phone to access the internet. Generation Z use TikTok over Google to search for a variety of topics, while 84% of the population still turns to search engines for brand name searches. There is a 30% decline in using search engines for this purpose between baby boomers and Generation Z in 2024. A quarter of people said they find these new brands on social media daily, right? So Google right now is just, it's slowly getting chipped away. And it reminds me of that meeting that got leaked where I don't know if it was a CEO or like one of the head engineers was saying, like, it's not like the easy days are here anymore. Like we actually have to like put our heads down, grind. The easy culture of Google is about to, be disrupted, right? And honestly, with the monopolistic stuff going on, the fact they've been charged, there's so many headwinds with this company that, like, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. And honestly, the value is probably going to get pretty intriguing, I think, in the coming weeks if it continues to sell off the way it is. If you guys start getting back down to the teens for Google, like, I'd pretty much just be asking myself, what am I willing to pay for YouTube? Because Google search is going to generate income for decades to come. I just think the big risk with the stock is as soon as people start getting a sniff out that, oh my God, like it's not growing anymore, the stock is going to plummet. That's the biggest fear and risk that I have with Google. But again, if it plummets enough already, I don't know how much farther you're going to let it go, right? Because YouTube is a growth beast. They have cloud. They have so much shit going on, from phones. They own Android, self-driving cars. They have everything. It's just, you always have to narrow it down to what's the balloon that's driving the machine. And the balloon driving 50% of Google is search. I mean, it's like saying Tesla isn't, a car company. I don't think Tesla's just a car company, but when almost all its revenue comes from cars, you're going to pay attention to the auto industry, right? Like, it's kind of just how it works. Now, the future could be bright. And speaking of Elon, we'll talk about self-driving real briefly, because I think this is also a very interesting topic that kind of tandems into what Google's doing. I just wanted to make this anecdotal because I think this is beautiful, and I'm beautiful and not at the same time, because I think his time horizons are always way off. But if this does come true, oh man, this would be unbelievable. The first Starship to Mars will launch in 2 years when the next Earth-Mars transfer window opens. There will be uncrewed, the first uncrewed mission to test the reliability of landing intact on Mars. If those landings go well, then the first crewed mission to Mars will be in 4 years. Basically, flight rates will grow exponentially from there, with the goal of building a self-sustaining city in about 20 years. Now, take everything this guy says with a grain of salt. We understand he does some incredible shit, you shoot for the moon. At least sometimes, you end up among the stars. So I hope this is one of those things that he's not like over exaggerated and like is a real reality. Because man, this is going to be exciting shit to see in the next couple of years, especially considering Starship has barely gotten off the ground, right? And he's talking about Starship. I mean, this thing is still wildly in test phases. But on that note, where is my Tesla video? Because I wanted to show you guys with a quick anecdote. I don't know if you guys saw the new release of Summon. Parking lot Summon's getting a lot more advanced. Like I said, I watched a ton of AI drivers like a hawk. Always love seeing if we're ever going to be on the forefront of, the robo-taxis being here. But sadly, again, still, I always like looking for the imperfections. And though I'm only going to show you the imperfections, I still want to remind you how wildly incredible this shit is. And it's an inevitability. It's just not on Elon's time scale. And I don't want to wait another 5 years because I'm looking at building a retirement portfolio in 5 years. So I'm waiting for that day where we're all like, it's here. But these guys that do this stuff, they know it's not here yet. And even every update, there's still issues. So take a listen.
Problem here, but actually Smart Summon does not seem very confident in doing that. There definitely seems to be a huge bias towards pedestrian safety, and anytime there's pedestrians involved, I find that it gets pretty awkward like this. And it did start moving forward and it looked like it was about to try the turn, but then stops dead in its tracks when it notices some pedestrians approaching from behind us. After these pedestrians pass, it does make one more small move and kind of inches forward, and I think it's probably trying to show intention of where it wants to go, but it just does not feel comfortable driving by this lady so close to our right. And it again gets stuck here for so long that more pedestrians start approaching from behind, which makes it not want to move at all. This is where things honestly get pretty awkward. And if there was a car behind us, I definitely would have ran over to correct it. But it lucked out and there was no cars behind us in this moment. And in case things weren't awkward enough, it goes ahead and triggers automatic emergency braking for getting too close to this curb. You can hear the car absolutely skid to a stop, and we have a message on the screen saying aborting to mitigate collision. Interesting to note that if you check out the car's cameras, we have about a foot of distance from the curb, and it was actually going to do that turn just fine.
So Tesla's at a point right now where even Smart Summon is so great and it's so advanced, but the safety and security of still having to deal with people is the refining aspect of when self-driving becomes a reality, right? Because it's like you can't just be pushing in front of people that are right next to your car, but at the same time, if you don't force your way in, they don't just let you in, right? So it's a really confusing thing for the car to actually have the balls to be like, I'm going this time. Enough of you walked. Even in the city, right? Like sometimes it's crazy when people like, I almost hit people that were like wearing all black running, downtown Toronto. You'd be making a right-hand turn and there's some dude jaywalking, literally wearing all black. It just misses the light when he had his chance to walk, runs right out in front of you, man. I don't know. It's going to be neat to see, man, but you can't have problems like this. That's what I keep telling you guys about self-driving. You can't have a million cars immediately become self-driving and then issues like this arise. Because it's going to be too wide scale, especially when these people are just first testing it out. But still, yeah. So that's kind of Tesla. It's going to be neat to see how it happens to Tesla here. And on that note, too, a lot of people are, obviously paying attention to Palantir right now. We'll talk a little bit about Dell here. Palantir, I still find a bit perplexing because obviously they just got the S&P 500 uplisting. They're trying to test all-time highs again. And after hours, all-time highs is what, $35. We're at 32. We need to see if Palantir can get there. I'm still in the camp, and I don't understand the software well enough. And I get the partnership with Microsoft, the backlog, I think is what's giving them some security in their value. But at the same time, their growth rate, they need to be in a place where like Tesla was right when they went into the S&P. And if they are where they should be right now, I mean, this company could absolutely skyrocket. Because it kind of reminds me so much of it, but let me just pull up their revenue real quick on macro. Because basically what happened with Tesla is like basically when they got S&P listing, they were right in the middle of their massive growth phase. So if Palantir can bring back this growth and start perpetuating this, I mean, the stock will absolutely go parabolic because now you've got indexes buying it. There's going to be more indexes than probably just the S&P that'll be buying it. So you're going to get that bit of a boost. But then if you get the boost on top of earnings growth and revenue growth, that is like excelling. Oh man, you guys could be off to the races with this one. But again, the thing that perplexes me about it is we're coming out of a very slow growth period for it. And it's not growing that much more than, say, Shopify is, yet it's trading at like 3 times the value of Shopify. So like I said, these stocks you got to be, careful with, because you're going to end up in what will eventually end up happening. It's software, and software is a lot different, because Constellation Software has done exceptionally well for a crazy overvalued company. But the concern always is that eventually you end up in a point like this, right? Where like all that hype and all that YouTube hype and growth kind of just bakes in, revenue starts to level off, and then you end up in a period where you just get like, very boring, nothing going on. I mean, that's basically what Palantir has been since its IPO. Like it just came in way too hot, burned out, and now we're going back to a too hot phase, right? Like the time to buy it was in that sub $10. Congrats. One dude in our chat group bought it sub $10, man. He's got like a 300 bagger on him right now. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, right? But yeah, so I'm very intrigued though to see what the Palantir bulls end up with here, and it should be an exciting little watch. Because they're definitely doing a lot of good things right now. Dell, on the other hand, Dell is Dell. I think the lowest market cap company on the S&P 500 right now is American Airlines, if I'm not correct. Isn't American Airlines the smallest company? I think it has like a $7 billion market cap. Yeah, I think this is like the lowest marketed company on the S&P. I could be mistaken. But anyways, we'll give the big congratulations, man. Hopefully Palantir pumps to the moon. People make some crap ton of money. Everyone runs with their bags, baby. Give me a thumbs up, and let me know in the comment section if any into the Palantir. But we'll kind of just take a broad view of my portfolio, because obviously I'm not chasing tech like I once was, which is probably a little bit disappointing to some of you guys out there. I've kind of become a very boring investor. When do you plan to sell DRN? Not for a little while. Anyways, well, who knows? Maybe I'll flip flop and sell it next week. I hope not. But so for those of you that don't know, the recent position or the recent ad this week after flip flopping is my triple leverage real estate ETF. It's 3x leverage. It's kind of like TQQQ. It's super small in the portfolio right now. I mean, I've only got like a few $1,000. I got like 202 shares in it, but I do plan on buying more. And a lot of you were saying, like, obviously I'm buying XLU on the top part of this trend, which if we take a look at the stocks, and we'll come back to the portfolio broad view here in a sec, but if we take a look at the holdings in and of themselves, like real estate, like look at the bottoming here. Like, so I'm always paying attention to VNQ. That's the purple line. That's the real estate ETF, not DRN, but just the broad. It's just one of my favorite, real estate ETFs in the States. And we can really start seeing a recovery happening here, right? Like it's starting to catch pace back to returns this year with the likes of SCHD, VDY, and so forth. Actually, what's the the utility ETF is the one that's excelling, that I is actually outpacing the S&P 500 this year, that I probably am maybe overpaying for, but something tells me that trend's going to remain my friend. But either way, like I'm super boring right now, man. I just I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to look at it as where I want to be in 5 years, and as a broad view of the portfolio, I just want to be averaging somewhere between 3 to 4% once I get to that point. And I just want them to be very broad-based, stable industries that are very boring, that remove some of the volatility from my portfolio. And I don't know if I'm still going to be into trading stocks at that point as much as I am now. But ideally, I just want to be in a place where most of the mortgage is paid off, and our stock portfolio basically pays for our entire cost of living in a very basic way. I mean, like, I'm not looking to be like retired theoretically. Like, I'm just looking to make sure no matter what, there's a roof over my head and food on the table in case I cripple myself or I die or whatever happens. At least wife's kept care of, or whatever, right? I mean, use that as your forever FU base, essentially. It reminds me of that movie. What's that movie? The dude's the gambling addict or whatever, and the guy wins all that money, and then the dude that works for the casino comes out and he just says, "This is your forever FU money," or whatever, like just taking a leave, and he wants to keep gambling it or whatever. And what do? You put some of it in treasuries, and you buy yourself a little shit Japanese car, pay your mortgage off. You recommend VDY today since it's on an all-time high, or wait, is VDY on an all-time high? Look, I never recommend to try and time stocks. If you find something you like, if you love Tesla, if Tesla is one of your end-all be-all long-term holdings, you should be buying it today. I mean, people I always find like to overtrade shit, and they get caught up in their head. Like, the value means nothing in the long run. Like, you could have went back to the dot-com bubble and said, Microsoft is overvalued, and then you skip friggin' 20 years later and you'd look like a genius. And you would have bought it at the top of the market. I mean, it doesn't matter in the perspective of, because you're not going to be done buying tomorrow, are you? I mean, these are just broad-based ETFs. They're boring as fuck. You just cost average into them, man. This goes back to that first question. It's like, VDY, it's not even at its all-time high yet. It's 2% away, but you just buy it. If it goes down next week, you buy it. If it goes up next week, you buy it. And then you just do that for the next 10 or 20 years and you're in a pretty good place. So yeah, obviously I recommend VDY. I'm buying it almost all the time. If we take a look again here, man, like I haven't bought enough S&P 500 lately, but I've just been really kind of getting into these utility ETFs and just broad diversifying. But yeah, what's with the title, why do you think Google search will go away? No, not too many comments this evening. We got 83 people in here, no comments. You guys are boring tonight, man. I think I've been rambling too hard. I don't think Google search is going away. I think it's going to be around for a very long time. Like I said, there's going to be a catalyst that's going to come down the road where search, like I already think search has peaked. Google doesn't share user search growth, not like Meta does, right? Meta's at the end of the day, the absolute best stock you can possibly buy for everything. If TikTok gets banned, Google and Meta are buy. If TikTok doesn't end up getting banned, a lot of people do go to Instagram. YouTube is the only real golden child. It's the second golden goose that laid the eggs for Google, basically, right? Search is the primary, YouTube's the second, and then everything else is too small to give a shit at this moment. It has to grow a lot more significantly when it comes to their cloud and all their other software stuff. So there's a short-term risk. Long-term, I think the company's fine. I don't think the company's going anywhere. I'm just, always kind of perplexed on the value of things and just reminding people that there's always risk with stocks. And I'm just curious to how Google would respond today if they said, okay, Google search revenue is no longer growing. It started to peak. Because that day is coming for all these companies, folks. I don't think it's here yet, but at some point, one day, Apple might be like, hey, Apple iPhone sales revenues have peaked, actually. And the stock is at all-time highs, for fuck's sakes. Okay, people have hope for Apple's growth in the future, clearly, because iPhones have peaked. It was so weird that happened, isn't it? Isn't it so weird? There was the time where people were like, it's time to show. I remember when Martin Shkreli was still, before he went to jail, there was the YOLO Wolf. For those of you that are OGs, does that guy still exist on YouTube? If I pull that up right now, let's do some old school history buffs for you guys that have been around the markets a little while. YOLO Wolf. Let's see if I can find this guy. This is like the exact Apple definition I'm thinking of. YOLO Wolf, Apple short. Is it on here still? Oh yeah, hell yeah, it is from 7 years ago, baby. Let's. I'm not gonna watch this, but I'll give you, because this was awesome. So there was a kid out there that got inheritance from his uncle or his grandparents or something like that. And anyways, the kid ended up getting I don't remember, it was like several $100,000 or something like that. And he was just YOLOing it on these crazy call options and all these crazy friggin' options bets or whatever. And then even Martin Shkreli tried to talk him off a cliff because he basically announced to the world that, hey, I'm going to short Apple's earnings because iPhone sales have peaked. I don't think iPhones are no longer growing. And anyways, long story short, he actually live streamed this. It was pretty much his last video. And it was him losing his most of his entire inheritance. You count down with me? 60 seconds and my fake is soup. Man, what an old video. This is some guy recording it on his phone. There's no way this stuff is about as soon as the other one saying, and then you can't even hear what he said. A snowball effect, You can see the freak out though. Did I see it? No. Wrong way. No. Okay, that's it. Went up. Yes! He's like, oh, I got it, baby. No, what the fuck? It's going right now. No! Just a little. No! Anyways, this was like we'll watch the freak out a little bit. I'll speed it up. Oh my god. I feel like we don't have enough of these moments in the market anymore. These are the moments that forever straighten people up. It's like this dude lost $800,000. Don't be this guy. But too many of us were watching the downfall of that live stream that Roaring Kitty did, and what an embarrassment that was, man. It was so bad. I think it's a bogus claim. Anyone has the freedom to choose their own engine to search. Sorry, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think it's a bogus claim. Anyone? Yeah, no. Oh, you mean the lawsuit with Google? Is that what you're talking about? I think the lawsuit as them as a monopoly is kind of a joke, because I mean, realistically, if you go on your iPhone to default settings and you go pick your default browser, Google's automatically selected, but Apple actually gives you all the other options. You know, they just had a better business, and they still have a better business. But either way, this is going to be a landmark case, right? For how bad Google's going to get royally screwed. Because I mean, if they just slapped them on the wrist and say, "Hey, you're playing in the big boy leagues now, pay your dues," and it's whatever, like a $5-10 billion fine. I mean, so be it. That's fine. But if they decide to separate the company up, that's only going to be better for you as a shareholder. To be honest, most people should be rooting for that. Because realistically, what ends up happening is the companies will have to sever off into their own separate entities, which will still be public, right? And you'll end up getting like probably a couple separate companies, right? Like, could you imagine owning YouTube on its own if YouTube was just a pure play investment? Oh my God, I'd be dying. I'd be drooling over that. How could you not? I mean, the market would explode, right? Same with like, even if Google search the way it's growing now, like if these companies had to sever off, they'd be worth more as their individual components than as one part. But the problem is like to get innovation and all this other stuff like self-driving, Google's using those to feed these other investments. So it's kind of like you don't want it to sever because, it is leading to more innovation and more investment. But then again, these companies are greedy. I mean, they laid a shit ton of people off. It's not like these companies are really benefiting employees as much as they are shareholders. But outside of that, folks, I mean, there's going to be probably one of the, again, I say this all the time, but it is still a huge reality. And it feels like a reality in life in general that things are just peculiarly interesting all the time. You not find that? You ever find that like you just never burn out? Like there's so much drama. Like, again, this is just stupid shit that has nothing to do with stock market stuff, but like, the YouTube internet of drama things is just so surreal right now. Again, I don't know if you guys saw like Nick Avocado. I mean, this dude just played the whole world of like mukbanging. Like this dude will forever go down as a legend on YouTube. Just mukbanging to losing a crap ton of weight. 28 million views in one day. This dude's setting records on YouTube right now. I mean, you have Dr. Disrespect in the gaming industry. That's just a complete calamity. I mean, the drama and just the insanity and the intriguingness of everything right now is nuts. It's just nuts. We're just living through like endlessly fascinating times. It kind of reminds me of that Elon Musk quote. Like, what did he say? Like, there was some Chinese proverb, "May you live in interesting times." And he said, like, I think we live in the most interesting of times. Like, I just feel like you pick any path you want to go down. You go down any rabbit hole, the healthcare rabbit hole, the crypto rabbit hole, the YouTube rabbit hole. Like, the shit you're going to find is just absolutely bananas. It's bananas. VDY till you mofo DLE, always buying high low, don't matter. Where is it going to be in 3, 5, 10 years from now? Yeah, it won't matter. It won't matter where it is 10 years from now. That's some of these tools. Like, it's funny when you get to like a certain level of wealth, like these tools become so irrelevant. It's just so interesting how when you're like on the bottom totem pole, like we are, and you like want to claw your way, because everyone has that goal in this community. It's like financial freedom. And we're all just like clawing, like working overtime. I'm going to share with you one of my favorite YouTubers. I love these smaller YouTubers, and I'm glad that like YouTube recommendation actually like recommends this shit once in a while. Cause like usually you just get huge YouTubers, but sometimes I get like YouTubers that maybe have like 5,000-10,000 subscribers. And there's a lady named Rebecca Quest to Fire. And if you never check out, I think I'd shut her out once in a blue moon, but, totally worth checking out because she's kind of trying to do that fire dream right now by working multiple jobs in the healthcare industry, and just seeing how like she shows her whole finances and like literally her spending and expenses and her income and how it kind of correlates because she just took on a second job, and just how it kind of works into her life is super fascinating. I won't go too deep down into everything she's done. You can go check out her videos because I think she's trying to move to Sweden with her husband. Very interesting stuff. A lady from the States. But I give a great deal of respect. It's super honorable watching, people that just somehow got that inspiration, that weird spark one day where they woke up and realized like my life is going to be different. Because I feel like there's, two kinds of people that live in this community. And the only people that live in this community are people that had that spark. The rest of them just look at it and I was like, it's interesting. I don't care. I'm going to move on. Right. Where some of us are like, it doesn't matter the education. It doesn't matter life circumstances. It doesn't matter anything. Like, we're all in the same boat. Even the billionaire has the same problem we have, is we're just looking for an investment that's going to grow us to where we need to be. We all have the same problem, but like, man, when you're on that bottom totem pole and just like the fight that you're willing to put into this is wild. I think it's truly wild. Because again, like, it's about savings rate. It's like you could have a guy making $100K a year, blows all of it, saves maybe $5,000 a year, but then you got somebody making like $50K a year, but is able to save like, 10,000, like more, double the amount that the six-figure guy is able to save because he's blowing it on his cars and all this stuff. And you could be like so much farther ahead, especially if you start at 20. Like, there's no reason that you couldn't retire by 40 if you, even on like a smaller income. It's kind of a beautiful thing. So it's interesting to see those people that have that spark, because I have it too much, and I'm burning myself out. I'm burning like all my wicks. I don't. It's giving me anxiety. I think this the amount of anxiety from just the crazy amount of work that I do is nuts. It's weird too. I always remember being younger, and I always, like, when I looked at, like, my buddy was 10 years older than I am, and it's crazy to think that he's in his 40s right now, because I'm 32 and he's like 40. We look at each other and we're like, shit, what happened? Because I think I met him when I was like 14 or 15 or something, and he was like, how old was he? Like 24, 25. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But what's interesting is the dude was a workaholic. And I remember being a kid, like, how the fuck do people do this? Like, the dude just never stopped. You ever meet those people, man, that just never stop going? They just got like 10 things on the go all the time. And now I'm in that situation where I've got like too much shit going all at once, between like family, work, and all this YouTube and all this other stuff. It's like a marathon. And eventually it's going to come to a fizzling end when I decide that I'm done with this shit, because I've made my money. I want to focus on things that are more metaphorically filling. Do you think the U.S. election matters for markets? I try and avoid it like the plague. Elon Musk is ruining himself right now, man. I love having like constructive debates. In Canada, like, I talk to liberals. I have a love-hate relationship for conservatives. It's such a mixed bag of, like, I wish people could just have a real conversation and be respectful about it. But the U.S., to be fair, is a complete political shithole because of so much, like, even the Russian interference. I mean, it's crazy to me that we live in a world where Russia doesn't even want to, like, attack the U.S. Instead, what they're going to do is basically they want to cause a civil war. They're like, I'm going to make it a complete adverse, extreme comment on all these videos about Trump and all these videos about Kamala. And, I hate the U.S. elections the most. It's like, I was asking a lot of people, like, if you went back to like Obama and before Obama, was it like this bad? Like, was it ever really like this politically divisive? I don't know. It's so terrible. It's like the U.S. needs to focus on like universal health care, gun control, like shit that makes sense. Why does it seem like there's just a bunch of old farts sitting behind some desk being like, you aren't allowed an abortion. We have freedom of guns. And it's just like, bro, what are you going to do with your gun? It's like, in Canada, we have guns. Everyone in Canada has guns. We have guns too. It's like, calm down. I'll show you one thing that blows my mind about the U.S., and it's disgusting, frankly, when it comes to gun violence and stuff. But if you want to do yourself a favor, and again, I'm for guns. I live in Canada. I grew up with guns. We have a ton of guns. It's not like it's uncommon here. It's just that they're regulated, right? But go on Google or go on Wikipedia. And actually, I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to share with you because it's going to blow your mind. Watch this. This is why the U.S. is a shithole. Sorry, just bear with me for a sec. This is so disgusting. Like, to the outside world, like, you go talk to anybody from Europe or China or whatever, like literally any country, and you talk to them about this, like, it's so apparent that it's a problem, but like nobody wants to fix it. So if you go into like US mass shooting on 2024, this is the list of all the mass shootings in the United States just in 2024. Think about every one of these school shootings and all the shit you hear on the news. For every one of those, there's like another 100 that have already happened that you didn't hear about. This list is insane. There is no other country on the planet that has a list of mass shootings like this that is all just domestic. They look at total days without mass shootings. This is the United States. This is why the United States is not one of the safest countries to live on the planet. You want to look up another interesting fact? Go look at how safe the US is compared to other countries. It's just, this is what politics should be about. Politics should be like a mutual thing where we take the best of both worlds, we find medium ground, and we say, hey, we need to find something today that is going to start fixing this problem because it's a problem. And yet instead we sit here and argue about why this stupid shit that Trump rambles about, and it's just so endless. It's just so endless. It's a popularity contest at this point. Yeah, I mean, Trump's going on friggin' Aiden Ross's live stream. What the fuck is that? What happened to the discourse of politics? It's changed so much in a weird way. Trump wins, gas goes up, crypto up. Ooh, I don't know what's going to happen to the market. I remember Dumb Money did a pretty good live stream talking about like their political trades. If you want to try and trade it, I'm sure there's some things you can trade for sure. Absolutely. Law 40. I wish I was that again. Oh my God, Chad. I feel bad if you're over 40. You're like that 1% of my YouTube statistics where it's like 50 and above in age. And it's like 1 or 2%. That's probably you. Not in a mean way, but there's very few old people that watch. Not old in the sense, I still think 40 is fairly young here. Let's be real. But if you're in your 40s or 50s, Canada isn't far beyond that midst. Mindset. Have you been to? Come on, dude. Come on. Go to San Francisco. Go to California. You'll come on, dude. I mean, seriously, Canada is so far better than most places on the planet right now. And I walk around. I'm not worried about shit. I love Canada, man. We have universal health care. We have gay rights. We have abortion rights. We have assisted suicide rights. All drugs are basically legal here. We're the most progressive country on the planet. Are we getting a little too liberal? Sure. But I mean, go somewhere else and then come back and tell me their political state is at least good as ours with the economic privileges that we have. We have CPP, we have TFSAs and RRSPs. We have so much shit here. We have Canada's one of the easiest countries to get rich. And everyone's like, we get overtaxed here. And you see all these TikToks where they're like, oh, we got to pay 30% tax. And then we have to pay 13% HST in Ontario. And before we knew it, we lose like half of our income to tax, blah, blah. It's like, bro, you haven't looked into the system very hard at all. It's like if you just get taken by the system is not going to benefit you. If you're making 6 figures and you're getting taxed at your ass because you're a moron, that's more of a you problem. But most people don't pay that much tax. You want to see how much tax you pay on a 50K salary in Canada compared California, you automatically lose 50%, bro. Even in Ontario, let's just do an Ontario tax calculator real quick. Income tax calculator. What the fuck? I get so uptight when people shit on Canada because it's just people live here and they shit on it. I'm like, when was the last time you left Canada, bro? So let's just say you make employment income of 50K, right? Look at this. You're paying $6,000 in taxes. You're paying $6,000 and 3,500 of that is going toward your fucking retirement, bro. Because we know not everybody is smart enough to invest. So at least the government has a system where they take half of your fucking taxes on 50K and they invest it for you. So when you get to 65, you automatically get checks. It's come on. It's we have such a good setup here, man. Yeah, there's issues. Yeah, healthcare's got some issues. Things aren't perfect. But it's a hell of a lot better than fighting your insurance company on a claim because they don't want to cover you. And you end up fighting over $50,000 bill. You get pregnant. You see what a pregnancy costs in the United States? Hell, my buddy had cancer. His family didn't have to pay a dime. It's a shame that the U.S. is set up the way it is. So, I mean, can we go back to politically talking about stuff like that rather than just focusing on the insane political divisiveness of it all? Once interest rates come down now, should we yield 6% with minimal risk? What do you mean when interest rates come down, we will yield 6%? The only way you could yield 6% is if interest rates stay at 6%. If they come down, dividend stocks will likely go up. Those yields will go away. GICs will go away, all that stuff. Look, have safe Russia is to the USA. You're gonna send me down a weird rabbit hole here. Your channel won't grow if you're anti-American law. I'm not anti-American. I just think there's a lot of issues with America. In America, I'm not trying to be mean here, okay? I'm really not trying to be rude, but I feel like America lives in a bubble, and a lot of Americans are under-traveled. And when you ask them broad questions about the world, in some sense, again, this isn't everybody. I'm not trying to be hyper specific. There's probably people in Canada that are pretty fucking stupid too. But Canada is super diverse. Most people that are from Canada have either it was their parents that immigrated here or they're just, it's all immigration, right? So people it's such a worldly diverse nation. I think Toronto is the most diverse city on the planet where I live. It's everything. Asians, like there's just so much of everybody, right? Whereas in the US, I just feel like to some extent, it's just very hickish. Like it's a very weird sense. And I work with so many Americans that are like, oh, we're gun loving. Like, I don't want them to take my guns. And like, you know, there's still a lot of like racism and just gay shit that goes on there. And it's just like, you know, just people that are homophobic and just weird shit. I mean, have you been to some of like the northern states is sketchy as hell, bro? Like a lot of the northern states, northern Canada is sketchy as hell though too. Let's keep it fair. Old experience, my young friend, but you're in the right path. Old experienced. You sound retarded talking politics. I'd rather sound retarded talking politics. If you listen to politics, what makes sense talking about politics? Seriously, you got on one end, you got a guy that lies through his teeth. And everyone, it just at this point, it's just acceptance that he's a liar. And the other one hasn't done like it's just a bunch of bullshit. Politics are bullshit, bro. If you honestly think your life revolves around what the politicians are going to do for you, you're fucked. Like you shouldn't even waste your time bothering. Trump's not going to make you rich. You know, Trudeau's not going to make you rich. Oh, carbon tax in Canada. Oh, heaven forbid. It's ruining our lives. It's like, if that's how you think, you're already screwed. You're already fucked. Don't even try. You know, politics is no game in making money or stock market shit. It just doesn't. You know, if things get out of control, you look at Apple. Apple went to fucking China to make their products, not in the United States. Does that mean America's a shitty country? Because like Apple realizes, hey, the tax policies and the way we can work the system here is better than anywhere else in the world. But unfortunately, manufacturing sucks. So we're going to go to another country. It's like, you know, we're in a global world now. It's not like the US. That's what I'm saying. Like the US is like this bubble, this microcosm that everyone focuses so heavily on. And I get it because the largest companies, all my money's in the US. Almost all my money is invested in the United States. They have just spurred the most incredible companies. But when you boil it down to politics, it's a fucking joke. It's such a joke. But that's why you don't have to operate around politics. You know, cheaper labor. Exactly. Right. Like, you know, but the world should globalize, man. I feel like because of travel and tourism, the world is starting to upgrade to a more like realistic society. I mean, if you go to places even like Saudi Arabia right now, the city of Saudi is very progressive because they want tourism, right? And when you want tourism, you have to start accepting gays. You have to start accepting all this shit these countries just don't like. Like if you go to Saudi right now, like you'll see normal women walking around. There's a lot of tourism in the city. Women are now allowed to drive. Like they're giving, like things are evolving because that's where like people like Spain, go to Spain right now, they're protesting tourism. Why would they be protesting tourism? Well, because the government realizes there's so much damn money coming into the country from tourism. Let them all come. And now people are getting pissed off because it's driving prices up and it's making people rich and making other people poor and it's causing a big flux, right? But that's what's happening. I mean, look at North Korea. North Korea wants to open to tourism. Every country realizes tourism is where real money comes from. So it's like, you know, Taiwan, all these countries, Thailand, like they're all highly diverse tourist countries now. I mean, there's a funny story, is a good example of this, is there was a guy from Las Vegas that flew to Dubai. And Dubai is, you know, still fairly like communist in the sense of it all, but they flew to Dubai. They were there, you know, things seemed fine. They got sick eating some food. They went to the hospital there. They're like, ah, shit, I'm throwing up. Okay. They ended up arresting the guy. He's in the hospital for like what's supposed to be like a few days. And he's kind of getting over it. He's feeling better. And security comes in and they're like, oh shit. Like, and he didn't know what was going on. They took him to they took him to jail. And he was asking people like, what the fuck am I doing in jail? And they're like, oh, this is a drug smuggling prison. He's like, I didn't smuggle any drugs. Anyways, turns out while he was, you know, in the hospital, they tested his blood and they found traces of marijuana because at some point in the last month when he was in Vegas, he smoked weed. And yeah, they basically threw him in jail. He lost his apartment in Vegas. He ended up, I think it costed him like, it's some Reddit story. I think it cost him like 80 grand to get all the lawyers. By the time it was all said and done, it was such a it was such a disaster from a media standpoint for Dubai. They changed the laws around marijuana. They changed the laws around like what happens when they find shit in your blood. Like when these things happen, all of a sudden these countries just upgrade their laws because they're like, we can't have this happen. It hurts tourism. Go to like Mexico. You don't think half those like, you know, resorts are run by like cartel. Even the cartel have interest in like tourism. And those are like the safest places you can go are resorts. Go to any crazy country where like crime is high, go to a resort. Safest place you'll probably be on the planet because the government's going to protect the living shit out of you because we can't have like you being, you know, hijacked. It's not like Brazil, man. Overtime, dum dum. You are not 48% taxed. Your marginal tax rate is 48%. For what? In what aspect? Unless you're making 100K, you're paying like no tax. Like your tax rate doesn't get crazy until like I don't even think what's the tax brackets in Ontario. Tax brackets. You guys got me rambling way too much here. This has been too heated. Calm down, folks. Because you also got to pay federal, right? There's two. But it's still like, unless you're making a lot of money, like you don't pay hardly any tax here, guys. I'm telling you, anyone that bitches, yeah, you're going to pay tax on your income and then you're going to buy shit and pay tax. Anytime money moves, you pay tax. Just the way the system works. But thank God you're not in like certain country or certain states in the US, right? Like it's just weird. The US is just weird in general. You have to kind of play that game of hop states. What do you want to live for? What is your income? Oh my God, what are you guys fighting about? Calm the shit down. Calm the shit down. I work 84 hours a week. Apple in India now. I'm still using ShakePay. Yeah, I'm still using ShakePay. I've been debating on getting back into crypto. I don't talk about that as much. I still see a lot of hope in crypto. I see a lot of hope. I don't like it as an investment as much as I like gold, but I see some, like, here's the thing with crypto is that your downside is like maybe at this point, if you're buying like the lower half of the market. What I mean lower half, and maybe I'll just pull it up because for you gambling degenerates out there that want to see this shit, coin market cap, I'll show you what I'm talking about real quick. I think Solana is probably like one of the best bets you're going to make right now. But realistically, if you want to make like crazy money, and we're heading back into a crypto bull market, which I think is around the corner at some point soon, you want to be looking at like gaming cryptos. You want to be looking at this lower half, not all these degenerate coins like Dogecoin, but when you look at the lower half of these coins, these things, like, they will go parabolic. So, I mean, like, what's the worst? They have better odds than Las Vegas, right? I mean, what's the worst that happens? You lose 50, 70% of your money, trading one of these upper end or like, mid cap coins. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So your risk is 50 to 80%, but what's your upside? If these things go parabolic and crypto, ends up running to 100K or Bitcoin runs to 100K, if Bitcoin runs, these things will go parabolic. You can make 3, 5X, 10X. I mean, that's the reality of these, right? So they don't do anything, but when they do something, the upside is so much far greater than the downside. It's not like me. Like, I'm trying to triple leverage, like, the real estate sector, which is like a safe bet for the most part because it's not very volatile, right? So 3X, what's the best case scenario for me? Maybe I make 100 to 200%. I figure that's the bar. I figure if things go the way I want it to in the next year, I could make 100% using a triple leverage ETF on the real estate sector. However, the downside of that is maybe we get a black swan, maybe something happens and it drops and I lose, somewhere between 20 and 30%. I think that's a likely reality. But when you look at crypto, what's like your downsides, again, 50 to 80%. But if you throw 500, $1,000 in here, I mean, that could easily become 10 or 20 grand. Not with this crypto coin specifically. Obviously, I'm just clicking on random shit. But yeah, I'm not going to go down the crypto stuff too much. We own a bit of crypto. I'm not like, balls to the wall on crypto because I think it's like gold. Why the fuck would you want to own gold? Because it's doing well right now. Who cares? I'm a stock guy. Always be a stock guy. I want cash flow secure in the bank. I mean, I got some gold back here. I got some gold back there. I got a cool gold coin, actually, I think from the 1800s or 1700s or something like that. Yeah, it resets daily. It's triple leverage, right? It's like TQQQ. It resets every single day. So if it dropped 33% in one day, I lose all my money. That's the risk. But I don't imagine that's going to happen. It'd be. I don't think that's ever happened in real estate history. Has it dropped? Was it 30 in one day? How much did when real estate collapsed in 2008? Was V&Q around during that? What's the longest real estate ETF? V&Q dropped in one single day. I wish I could zoom in on this. I'm kind of curious now. If I can zoom in on this, I don't think it's going to give me a good enough. I'd have to get like Moomoo or something. But what was the biggest drop here? So the 12th. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it on this chart because I don't even think this ETF dropped 30% in one day. I think it was like a progressive thing, even though you would have probably lost all your money either way, but you'd had time to get out. Like on the first day there, it looked like it's not even the first day. 26th, it dropped 23% on the 26th. So yeah, you'd have got slaughtered. You'd still got slaughtered. I mean, that's some of the risk, right? It's like TQQQ. This is probably one of my favorites for those looking to like really expand their horizons into like speculative growth. Because I mean, if you bought TQQQ 10 years ago, I mean, you're up 13,000%, right? But again, if this ever collapsed in a material way, like you could easily lose all your money. It's just one of those things where it's like you could throw a small bit of money at it, see what happens. What's your outlook for the next week, and what are you looking to buy? My outlook is bullish into interest rate cuts. I think once they cut rates, the market should pump. At least certain stocks I'm betting on. Obviously, that's the bet, is that, interest infrastructure, oriented stocks will boom, because they did in Canada. I mean, we're seeing infrastructure in real estate boom. It's popping on the interest rate cuts. So let's see what happens in the States. In the meantime, if I'm pulling out my crystal ball, I think the market's going to do shitty because it's done shitty every September for no reasons. SoFi, you like SoFi? Don't put any more than 5% of your portfolio in that. It's speculative growth stock, right? Unless you have risk. Back in the day, if I didn't have much money, I'd probably put a lot into an individual stock. But these days, I think if you're really speculative, maybe 10% at most. If you're mostly like index funds and you just want to speculate, I mean, you could easily just throw 10% of your portfolio to stock. It's your personal preference. Most people that buy individual stocks say no more than 5% in one individual position and no more than 20% in one individual sector. I generally follow that rule of thumb. That's the way I invest, but now I'm old. I have money. I want longevity. I want, wealth preservation at this point, because I make good money at my job. So it's like, I really only have to work for a good few years. If the market doesn't crash, between me and my wife, like, we'll have the mortgage paid off. We'll have more than $500,000 in the bank. Like, she'll be kept care of. But if you're younger, you're 20 years old, like, does that matter as much? Probably not. If you're 20 years old and you think SoFi has a future, I mean, when I was 20, or 23, I had two stocks, the marijuana stock, Canopy Growth Corp, and Northland Power, a national energy company. Both right now have done pretty shitty, actually, but I don't own them anymore. TELUS making a comeback lately. Yeah, it is. TELUS is my favorite Canadian pick I've never bought yet. It's like, I follow it all the time. I think I bought this in my mom's retirement account. These are like some really small positions just for higher yields that, if I wanted income cash flow today and I wanted a small handful of stocks, this is one that I'd be buying. And since the interest rate cuts, I mean, we're up 5% in the last week because we had another interest rate cut. But, this thing has been popping up, and it'll be neat to see what happens. I think TELUS has such a good future ahead of it just because of the restructuring. Once those restructuring fees are out of the way, once interest rates come down, this thing's going to boom. Bitcoin to 120, 150. Yeah, maybe. I could say the same thing about anything. I'm into ETFs and stuff. Yeah, reset daily. C&Q has been dipping pretty good. Yeah, oil's been getting tanked. It's good for the gas stations, though. I filled up my gas tank, and I like seeing it in the 130s here. Filling up my gas tank at $1.30. Baby, TD will recover. Yes, it will. I love TD. TD is probably my second best pick, baby. If I was buying individual Canadian stocks, TELUS, TD, I'd be all over these things, baby. I'd be all over this. Hydro One. There's so many good Canadian stocks to own on an individual level if you're like that. But anyways, folks, it's been fun yammering an hour of getting me going. I appreciate y'all sticking around. I'm worried a bank bail in negative interest rates, but I've done great playing it safe. I'm bearish 48 months. Anyways, folks, HHL healthcare is great, especially if you're Canadian. We don't have enough healthcare in our exposure. Anyways, folks, it's been a pleasure. Stay cool, stay awesome. Let's see what next week brings. Don't get too into political. Let's just get through the political shit. For the love of God, who cares who wins? Let's just get through it. I'm tired of listening about it. Elon Musk needs to shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about Trump and what he's saying that's correct and what Kamala's saying that's wrong. I just want to hear about space and Mars. I just want to hear about robots and Neuralink. I just want to see cool shit. Trump is not cool. Kamala is not cool. I don't care about that shit. Do you have Discord or WhatsApp group? I do. If you subscribe to my Patreon, you can get it in my WhatsApp group, but I am going to be evolving a Discord or something at some point soon. I want to evolve these chats, guys. At the end of the day, my retirement goal is to stop grinding so hard, just focus on chatting with you guys, building a fun place where we can come together as a community and just shoot the shit. But yeah, if you want to chat right now, some people will sign up. You don't have to sign up though. I mean, it's just an option. You can cancel at any time. It's just a patron. Some of you just sign up. I don't even promote it. But anyways, peace. Let's get out of here.